Some people think that rolling a Tesla Model Y is impossible, and we've never seen it happen until now. This Tesla was traveling down I-84 when the driver decided to take an exit. Somehow they missed the sign warning them to slow down and went into a sharp turn way too fast. The driver lost control and the Model Y went sliding through the grass before hitting a ditch and rolling over. The car was deemed a total loss and sold on an auction website, and that's where our submitter enters the picture. He works at a shipping company that helped a European buyer purchase and ship this Tesla to Eastern Europe. The submitter was able to extract the crash footage from the USB drive that was still in the car, and he also took these pictures. As far as he knows, the occupants of the Tesla weren't harmed in the wreck, but this story has another twist. The buyer in Eastern Europe actually bought more than one Tesla. Our next video shows another Tesla that was also totaled in a wreck. The driver was coming back from skiing and was driving down a mountain when an oncoming car lost control and started swerving before hitting the side of the Tesla. The car was deemed a total loss by the owner's insurance provider, so the car ended up on an auction site before being purchased by the same Eastern European buyer. Once again, our submitter is shipping the car, but this raises a question. Why would a buyer in Europe be after these two wrecked Teslas? We have no idea, so we asked our crash expert Winston if he had any theories regarding the economics of salvaging these two Teslas. Stick around to the end of the video to hear what he told us. Jesse was driving down the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway when the Jeep driver in front of him suddenly stopped in the middle of the road and jumped out of his car. Apparently, Jesse had ended up in the middle of a road rage incident. The Jeep driver threw a coffee cup at the Honda behind Jesse, and the Honda driver immediately got out and threw a water bottle at the Jeep driver. Oh, what is going on? And why are they throwing drinks at each other? A heated argument ensued, and Jesse just sighed as he pulled around them and got out of there. He told us it looked like they calmed down a bit as he left, but maybe they were just dehydrated after throwing their drinks away. Gaia was on his way to grab some lunch when he approached a red light. While he was stopping, he noticed a green Honda bump into an SUV in the turn lane. It looks like the driver of the Honda was trying to run from the first collision when they suddenly backed into a white car in the lane next to Gaia. The driver of the white car then hit the vehicle next to him, pinning the white car against a light pole. The Honda driver then fled the scene while Gaia contacted the police. The police later identified and arrested the driver of the Honda.
Honda bombed! Honda bombed! Yeah, Honda bombed!
This submitter was driving his 2-month-old Model Y Performance with his toddler son in a child seat in the back. They were following a truck with a dumpster precariously placed in the bed, and after watching so many Wham Bam videos, he began to suspect that he was about to have a Wham Bam moment. When they slowed down, the Tesla was suddenly rear-ended by a Ford F-150. The driver of the F-150 didn't get her foot on the brake pedal until she'd hit the Tesla twice. The first impact pushed it forward, and the second pushed it sideways. Autopilot wasn't engaged, but our submitter did feel his seatbelt pre-tension before the impact. The F-150's airbags deployed, but the Tesla's airbags did not. Sadly, the Tesla was completely undrivable. Our submitter's son was startled, but otherwise unharmed. The driver of the F-150 and her young daughter appeared to be okay as well. She admitted fault at the scene, and the police noted that in their collision report. Interestingly, both vehicles were towed to the same body shop. Our submitter filed an insurance claim with the other driver's insurance provider since she was at fault. The body shop gave him an initial estimate of $12,800 for replacement parts, but this was before they'd taken the car apart. They did warn him that the estimate would increase once they started disassembling the car. 3 weeks later, the estimate had climbed to $53,000, totaling the car. Apparently, the impact had cracked the subframe in such a bad location that there wasn't any way to safely repair the damage. What are people up to in Europe, you might wonder? Well, that we can answer. They're pulling pranks and working out. At least the passenger of this van is doing that, which this Teslacam footage from Adam proves. As Adam pulled up to a red light, the passenger jumped out of the van and opened another car's door before jumping back in. Think that was strange? Just you wait. He jumped out again and started doing push-ups in the middle of the road. Honestly, I don't even know what to think. Yitzy was getting into his Tesla at the same time the driver of the car parked next to his also returned to her car. That driver noticed a dent in her car and thought it was Yitzy's fault. She started taking pictures of both cars while accusing Yitzy of hitting her car with his door. Yitzy told her that he had footage of his door being opened and it clearly shows he didn't hit her car, but she wasn't interested in watching it. He even found footage proving the mark had been on her car before he'd even parked next to it. Just in case, Yitzy made a police report of the incident and told the cops he had all the evidence they'd need if the other driver made a complaint. That's one more victory for Sentry mode, arguably the best Tesla feature. Dan was pulling out of a parking lot when...
Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man! Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man!
Actually, that's not what this story is about. Let's keep watching. As Dan was pulling out of the parking lot, he encountered a driver who'd forgotten to set the parking brake before walking away from her car. David honked to get her attention before simply pointing at her car. She looked shocked as she walked back to her car, and David hopes there was no damage and this will end up being something she can laugh about. Perhaps she'd been distracted by the wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. Zach was driving south on I-83 when he noticed a dump truck driving in the middle lane ahead of him. Because Zach saw dirt starting to fly off the back of the dump truck, he'd already planned to swerve to avoid any rocks that could potentially damage his car or windshield. Suddenly, he noticed a part of the truck break off and fly toward his car. Zach swerved to the left and accelerated to avoid hitting the flying debris. Nice move, Zach. Eric was driving home after dropping his son off at school when traffic on the highway suddenly ground to a halt. Eric reacted quickly with room to spare, and so did the Mercedes following him. Sadly, a van driver who wasn't paying attention slammed into the Mercedes, which flew forward and hit Eric's Tesla, causing it to fly forward into a Model Y in front of him. The van was carrying bamboo on its roof, and when the collision occurred, it shot forward over the Mercedes and hit Eric's Tesla. One of the pieces of bamboo stabbed a small hole into the trunk lid. Wow, that's some Final Destination stuff right there. It just goes to show how important it is to secure your load. Eric filed an insurance claim and visited a police station to make a report. The final cost to repair the Tesla was 100,000 Hong Kong dollars, about 13,000 US dollars. During the Tesla Takeover 2023 Scenic Drive, an unexpected event disrupted the journey. As Jonathan was driving his Model Y, he saw a non-Tesla vehicle swerve into the median. The driver of a white Model 3 reacted by activating their turn signal and attempting to avoid a collision, but their quick reaction resulted in contact with the hill next to the road. At the same time, the non-Tesla rebounded off the median before colliding with the Model 3. After the collision, roughly 30 Tesla drivers pulled over, which just goes to show how concerned they were with the well-being of the two drivers. This video was actually captured by a Tesla driver closer to the collision, and Jonathan filmed it with his phone to send it to us. First responders arrived fewer than 5 minutes after the collision and determined that everyone involved was okay. The remaining Tesla drivers continued their scenic drive and let the police work everything out. Jonathan told us that the driver of the Model 3 ordered a new Tesla the next day while at the Tesla Takeover. Man, that seems like an epic event. Leave a comment if you've been to one. Onsen was parked and charging at a Flow charging station at the Markville Mall. There's also a supercharger station here, but he wanted closer parking and didn't need a fast charge. When he returned to his car, he found coffee on his windshield, a deep scratch on the hood, and this Sentry mode footage. The driver of an electric Volvo, probably upset that a Tesla owner was using an NEV charging station, decided to throw his coffee onto the windshield, and something hard from his mug slid down the hood, leaving the scratch behind. The action was caught on video, sort of. At first, Onsen Winston couldn't see what had happened, but when he watched closely, he could see the Volvo driver in the reflection of his own car. It looks like it wasn't just the Tesla he hit during his coffee attack. He managed to hit himself as well. Onsen filed an official report with the York Regional Police. He also contacted a body shop and they told him his hood would need to be repainted. Watch what Nick witnessed while driving through a highway tunnel. The driver who caused the collision took off like nothing had happened. Nick hopes his Teslacam video will help bring them to justice. As Tyler was leaving his job at Harbor Freight, he noticed a lot of smoke coming from a bridge. After watching it for a moment, he realized it was getting worse. Tyler keeps a fire extinguisher in his frunk because, as he puts it, he's always seeing gas cars catch fire. He grabbed the extinguisher and ran to put out the fire and direct traffic, and that's when he discovered it was an RV on fire. Everyone had been evacuated from the burning RV, and Tyler's extinguisher successfully put out the fire. Tyler told us that the owner of the RV was not happy that Tyler had come to the rescue. Tyler suggested we name this video RV Fire Put Out by Tesla Owner. Why do you think the RV owner was upset by Tyler's heroism? Tell us in the comments. Jonathan was driving his Model Y in Brea, California when he noticed a big truck weaving in and out of the traffic. He proceeded to cut Jonathan off, but Jonathan told us he decided to let it slide. When Jonathan saw an opening to merge left, the truck driver followed him at the last second, but Jonathan sped up. Apparently that offended him, so the truck driver sped up and tried to cut Jonathan off again, getting within inches of hitting the right side of the car. The truck driver was then forced to back off and let Jonathan go ahead of him. Jonathan did notice something funny. The truck's license plate reads, "First one." Apparently not, pal. And now, over to our crash expert at Winston's garage. Winston told us there are two reasons someone might want to buy these cars: to rebuild them for resale or to strip them for spare parts. Looking at the white Model Y, we know that the car rolled over. A rollover compromises a lot of structural components, including the frame. This damage can be repaired, but doing so is a long, tedious process. Looking at the other Model Y, the car was impacted hard at the A-pillar. This caused significant frame damage, also a very difficult repair. Fixing either car will take a lot of time and money. We're not sure what will happen to them, but our guess is that they'll probably get parted out. Salvaging parts from Teslas is very lucrative compared to other vehicles. Some people even do this as their full-time job. Thanks for the info, Winston. Be sure to follow him on his social media channels.